As at the 11th of November 2024, during this last festive season, all our shortlet bookings were totally booked. The request we had was so enormous that we had to partner with other shortlet companies which were part of our rivals, and even as at that, we could not meet the demand for shortlet. As a real estate investor, you need to understand that real estate has gone beyond buying land or buying bushes, living it for a while. Real estate has gotten to a point whereby you can make good return on your investment if your investment is strategic enough and properly managed. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the difference between the mainland shortlet market and the island shortlet market. Trust me, you certainly don't want to miss any part of this. I'll see you immediately after this short timeout. Don't go nowhere. You're welcome back. So looking at the major differences between the mainland shortlet market and the highland shortlet market, I'm going to start by giving a clear example of what our shortlet listing was as at the 11th of November. The demand was so enormous to the point that we had to partner with other shortlet companies to the point that we were overwhelmed. That was where I understand that when it comes to celebrating festive period, give it to Nigerians. They don't play with it. See, the December was so dirty to the point that I and my other team members decided to talk more extensively on why you should prioritize cash flow in this 2025 real estate market. But before we go into that, I'm going to be citing some major instances and some important things you need to put into consideration whenever you are making your choice of your shortlet rentals, whether it's on the island or whether it's on the mainland. Now, the first thing you need to understand basically is that whenever we're doing a comparison between the mainland shortlet market and the island shortlet market, we need to understand that their mode of operation differs. When I talk about the mode of operation, what exactly am I referring to? Now, one of the basic model of the shortlet apartments rentals on the mainland is due to the fact that 65% of the developers who are building and selling shortlets are also managing that shortlet on behalf of their investors. Let me expatiate further so that you can get a clear idea of what exactly I'm talking about. I'm going to start this instance by giving a clear example of the Crestview apartment. For some of us, Crestview apartment, as at the time I mentioned, was also fully booked out. But do you know that the Crestview arm is the department that is in charge of putting out those shortlets for rentals, where the builder is also differs. Now, the way they measure it is that when the mainland real estate developers are offering apartment for shortlets, they build and they manage it just to ensure that there's, number one, consistent booking, accountability, and proper maintenance of the shortlet facilities. And that's why you'll understand very well that the results that was gathered during the festive period was much, and you cannot compare the success of it to some of the shortlet apartments that was also managed by some of our rival companies on the mainland. What exactly do I mean by that? Now, let's give, for instance, the Altua residents and, of course, the Brookend residents that is presently ongoing. What they do basically is that whenever they sell the apartment to the investor furnishes it and gives it to them. Now, what these people do basically is that on a monthly basis, they remit, at return for shortlet owners. For instance, what was done at the Crestview Ilupeju and Crestview Surulere was that we found out that people who own one-bedroom apartments earned 500,000 naira monthly on their shortlet property, and those who own two-bedroom apartments was also earned 1 million respectively. And this was a consistent flow of revenue for house owner. So when you are looking at the basic apparatus or the basic return on investment, you will agree with me that the shortlet model is a very, very important and profitable investment that every smart real estate investor should consider in this 2025 real estate year. Furthermore, the shortlet market on the mainland is self-managed, meaning that you can buy and manage it by yourself. The reason why I prefer the mainland model of shortlet is due to the fact that wherever you are across the world, your investment is working for you, and your money is remitted as at when due. I love the level of transparency, and I also appreciate what these guys have been doing consistently just to safeguard this. So that is one of the major difference between the mainland shortlet market and obviously the island shortlet market. The next thing I also want to talk about is the client's preference. Now, when it comes to shortlet apartments or shortlet rentals, the mainland shortlets have recorded tremendous apartments, and this is due to the fact that if you have been following the development of shortlet Airbnb in Nigeria, you discover that the shortlet is gradually, becoming a preference to people or to hotel and hospitality. This is due to the fact that in your shortlet you have access to so many things. You have access to your kitchen, you can make any food you like. You have access to your Wi-Fi, you have access to your privacy, you have access to several facilities. So many people prefer, to book, and of course, that is not to say that the people who are in the hotel and hospitality business will be totally out of business. No, but with the level and innovation, that has been put into the shortlet market, you would understand that some of these shortlet managements are beginning to put some of the important things that we have in some of our 4 stars, 3 stars, and 5 stars hotel repeatedly. Now, when I was looking at the level of shortlet accommodation during this last festive period, I found out that the mainland shortlet market recorded 67% booking, while the highland shortlet market also had 65% bookings. The difference is not much, but I'm going to talk about why we have this kind of statistic reports. Now, this is due to the fact that when it comes to shortlet rentals, preference is very key. When I talk about preference, like for some of our investors that book some of our shortlet rentals on the mainland, these were people that were flying from the diaspora. These were people that came from different parts, of the country, and their reasons why they chose some of those places was due to the fact that a lot of them put into the consideration that whenever I'm done with my festive period and I want to travel back, I want a place that is not so far from the Murtala Muhammad Airport, so that I would not, miss my flights. Some also prefer places where we have clubs, bars, hotels, and of course some other side attractions. Now, these basically were the major considerations, while for this year the mainland shortlet market recorded a whole lot of higher bookings compared to now. That is not to say that people did not book shortlet also on the island. Now, you need to understand that the model of shortlet rentals on the mainland or some part of the mainland is pretty affordable, okay, compared to the part of the island. Now, you also need to understand basically that when it comes to the choice of the preference of the clients, they also put into the issue of security and of course nearness to major infrastructures and other facilities, that will certainly make life extremely comfortable with them. So when we talk about preference, from our indications, we found out that some people still prefer the mainland shortlet market because of some of the reasons I also outlined. When it comes to profitability, now the reason why I discovered that some shortlet management company on the mainland hired gained high or made enormous profits was due to the fact that some of the model that was employed by the shortlet management company was very, very effective and was able to attract a whole lot of client, and of course they were able to make money. Now, one of the things I saw basically was that some of the shortlet company gave incentive to some of their old and new customers. Like for instance, the Crestview shortlets in Surulere and Ilupeju gave incentive. They gave Christmas packages and this. Now, these are some of the strategies that is being used, okay, to appreciate those who, lodged for that place and those who have lodged in the course of the year. Now, this obviously is an effective means, and this obviously will create a good impression and of course attract other high-end investors to that shortlet. Now, in addition to this, the effective management policy has been able, okay, to foresee and control damages. Like one of the models that's been used on the mainland basically is that the Crestview manage the shortlet, they do the major maintenance, they supply electricity, and of course they do this even without letting the owners of that apartment know. What they just do basically is that they give an accountability report of this amount of money that is being used for facility management, and this obviously has become top notch. Now, for some of the shortlets that are on the island, I found out that majority of them are self-managed, and in situations whereby the cost of living or the cost of fueling or the cost of transportation has become enormously very, very expensive, most of them bear a lot of loss. So for instance, from what I've been able to gather from some of the sufficient informations I've been able to gather, I found out that the model, okay, of having somebody manage and of course rent out your shortlet basically has become one of the best options. Of course, maybe in the course in due time, other important management policies and management strategies may come up. So these are some of the major differences when we talk about the mainland shortlet and the highland shortlet. Now, to cap it all, whether you choose to I'm not saying that if you invest on the highland you will not make your profits. No, neither am I saying if you invest on the mainland you will not make your return on investment. What I'm trying to say basically is that people who sell apartment for shortlet on the mainland are helping their investors to manage the shortlets for them. So even if you are in the diaspora, you don't need to oversee the cost of putting your shortlet out, running the cost of the advertisement, the cost of fueling. No, they are professional who does that, and this obviously has become one of the effective way. So as we approach as we are in the 2025 real estate here, I would suggest that you should prioritize investment. Now, how can you now pay attention to this? Now, for the mainland shortlet market, there are two options. Now, if you want to go into shortlets, there are some shortlet rentals, okay, that are available on a long lease. Now, when I talk about the long lease, you will find out that there are some apartments that are available for 15 years lease, 17 years lease, 20 years, depending on the lease agreement that they have with the owners. Now, that option of lease is the most affordable of all. Now, the model basically is that by calculations and some indices of the process and the way it will be managed before the expiration of the lease, the investors would have been able, okay, to gather their money and make back what they use in investing, and of course cash out before the lease expires. So that is option number one for those who we want to consider. That is obviously the most affordable. You can get a studio lease, maybe a 15 or 17 years lease for 7.5. If it is a one bedroom, you can get for 11.5, 20, 13, 15 million, depending on that. The second option is the outright ownership. This is not a lease. This is a project that you own forever. Now, what is being done basically is that I'll start the Altura as an example. For some of our investors that invested in the Altura residence, they are managing the shortlet and they are remitting money to you on a daily basis. So the outright lease is what you own forever. Okay, now what happens basically is that even if you don't want the company to manage the shortlets, you still have to abide to the regulations that it is used for shortlet. So you can get another shortlet company or shortlet management company to do that for you. So the outright owner is a little bit more expensive because you own it forever. You own it, it's yours forever. Meanwhile, the lease is more or less like a temporary, maybe 15, 16, 17 years. But whatsoever options that you can do, it's a very good one. So as we are in the 2025 real estate here, prioritize cash flow. Now, it doesn't make any outright sense, okay, for you to put 20, 30, 40, 50 million in an investment that will not give you either monthly rental or yearly rentals. And these are some of the things that you need to know. And these are some of the things, okay, that determines the faith and of course the return on investments. Now, also on this investment option, okay, we also have hostel units, hostel accommodation, bed spaces. These are, of course, this is the kind of investment that is open in places where we have student environment like the University of Lagos, the FCE Akoka, the Yaba Tech, Yaba Lagos, the Augusta University, also in Bariga. So people are also looking at that options. Now, whatsoever options that you have chosen, ensure that your 2025 real estate investment is paying you. Don't tie 100 million, don't tie 80 million, don't tie 90 million on an investment that cannot pay you. And these are some of the things that you need to understand. So whether it's on the mainland or on the highland, ensure that your 2025 investment will be a cash flow investment for you. So these are the major differences between the island shortlet market and of course the mainland shortlet market. In case you have further inquiries, you can do well to hit us up on our number, and of course we can explain further. Until I come your way in another insightful, educative, and of course interesting episode of Property Matters, stay blessed. Happy New Year. See you in my next video. Bye.